The Dietrich Enns game will live in lore forever. The Tigers complete the series victory over the A's. We'll talk about that and take a look ahead at a big weekend in Comerica. That and more, all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, June 27th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Welcome in, welcome all. Happy Friday to everybody as we celebrate a series victory over the Athletics, and we take a look ahead, rather, to this weekend series at home against the Minnesota Twins. We'll preview that at the end. We'll also talk about some, off the field updates, injury updates, etc. But let's start off with this 8-0 win over the No City Athletics. The Tigers are now 51-31 on the season as we officially enter the second half of the Major League Baseball series. That's a series victory. Season. Not the Major League Baseball series. Although maybe it's like an 162 game series. Season. That is a series win for the Detroit Tigers. However, they take 2 of 3 from the A's, who fall to 33-50 on the season. So really my first thought is what a response. And I know that that's almost a broken record-ish at this point. We've been saying great response, great bounce back win kind of all year. But this was another one, right? They get shut out and just completely lay a dud in game 2 of this series at home, turn around with a guy who's in his 30s, been a career minor leaguer, at best, hasn't pitched in the major leagues in about 4 or 5 years, returns, throws 5 shutout innings against a good offense, and the Tigers rally behind him and put up 8 runs themselves. Just all around a dominant and incredible performance by everybody on the team. There's not too much that went wrong. You had in this series 2 great offensive days. You put up 11 in game 1, you put up 8 in game 3. Both of those awesome, right? And then you had the one stinker in the middle. The pitching, I think, was good for, honestly, all 3 games. Skubal gives up 4 in game 1. Flaherty gives up 3 in game 2. Dietrich Enns throws a 5-inning shutout, and the team as a whole, bullpen comes in, also holds them to 0, gets a shutout in that. So 7 runs across 3 games. You're going to win a lot of those. Beautiful. Better team does what better team is supposed to do against inferior opponent. Like that is what we saw. Absolutely awesome stuff. So what went right? Well, mostly everything. We're going to start with the headliner, though. Dietrich Enns, 5 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. That is absolutely wonderful. These are the coolest types of stories. They've always been my dad's favorite kind of stories, right? Kind of, I don't know, Moonlight Graham-ish. Not quite, but, similar vein there. A major tip of the cap to Mr. Enns and his family. And, his brother was there. They had some people from CMU that were there. Like, just an absolutely awesome story. And I hope that he's able to stick around and keep getting work, man, because he deserves it. I actually thought the stuff was pretty darn good. I was pleasantly surprised in the best way possible. And he's had a great year down in Toledo, obviously. But This is a guy that has zero fear throwing a high fastball, despite the fact that he only tops out at like 93, 94, and that's like the high end. He was kind of sitting 92. And as a lefty, having zero fear in his body to throw that fastball up over and over and over and over again, and then pair it with a changeup. Like it was kind of, if Tarek Skubal threw 10 miles an hour slower, like that's kind of like what this was a little bit reminiscent of. Now he obviously, and he got a handful of swing and miss. He's obviously nowhere close to Tarek. That was more of a joke than anything. I don't want to hear about how I compared the two. But I do think that he was mixing his pitches really well. He also had a really nice cutter that was kind of in the upper 80s. He was able to go backdoor with that against righties a few times. Yeah, man, didn't really throw it against lefties, which I think is interesting. But I think also kind of with how well the changeup was working to both handedness. You don't really need the cutter if the changeup is a righty lefty thing for him, which it was. And again, takes guts, man. That's not for nothing. To be able to throw a low, in today's day and age, a low velo fastball up in the zone and also throw lefty changeups all outing, like that's you got to trust your stuff, and he did. So I think he deserves all the credit in the world. Some people were questioning why you pull him after 5. Well, they got a shutout, so I think that kind of answers that question. But I also think, in a vacuum, just that decision, you don't want to push your luck really, in that scenario. So I kind of understand pulling him after 5. It's also an A's lineup that has a lot of pretty good right-handed hitters or just lefties that can hit lefties. So I really don't have any problem with, especially when the lineup turned back over and you got into that kind of, I don't know, mini murderers row there at the top of the Athletics lineup. I think it kind of makes sense. So we'll see what the future holds. There's always a chance that they like what they saw from him, and he's a left-handed pitcher, and there's injuries galore really happening throughout the pitching staff with this team. And so I don't know. I have no clue if he's going to be here again, if he's going to stick on the roster. Matt Gage was the corresponding move, and he got DFA'd straight up. So, like, he's not going to be on the 40-man and likely not going to be back unless he goes unclaimed, and then the Tigers call him back up at some point. But regardless, whether this is his only outing, whether he's back in 5 days, whether he takes a rotation spot, whether he's in the bullpen, none of that should really. It obviously matters to him that this is his job and livelihood, and it should matter. This dude's a competitor, and clearly he has a love for the game and wants to play at the major league level, or else he would have stopped a long time ago. But in this moment, for one outing, it's just a really cool story either way, man. It doesn't matter to me personally, which means nothing, but it doesn't matter, what happens or what comes of this. It's just awesome. A rubber match victory in a series against a pretty good offense for the team with the best record in baseball 4 years after your last major league appearance. That's pretty darn cool. Let's talk about the offense, which also obviously bounced back in this ball game. We'll do that right after this. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That is exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without all the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes that all possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee. That takes the worrying out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming Tigers game. A big weekend in Detroit at Comerica Park against the Minnesota Twins. Get in on the action with Game Time. They also have exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Championships, 10% off. So much fun coming this way, and you can get in on all the action there with Game Time as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back Monday. I almost said tomorrow. We'll, of course, be back Monday recapping this weekend series against the Minnesota Twins. Today, though, we talk about this 8-0 rubber match victory over the Athletics. We talked about the pitching. Well, we talked about the starting pitching. Offense. Great. Fantastic. A beautiful bounce back performance. The beautiful thing about this team is one of the many beautiful things about this team is the response to getting punched in the mouth. We talked about that a little bit already earlier in this show, but they had a fantastic game plan against Springs, and it translated over to the bullpen as well. Now, this bullpen stinks. The A's bullpen is terrible. So, low bar, I guess, there. However, Springs is solid ish, low fours ERA, I think, going into this outing. And they were able to not only tag him for a few runs, but also knock him out of the game early and get to that awful bullpen as soon as possible. So we kind of talked about it a little bit on yesterday's show, like that the Tigers are kind of, you're either really, really impressed with their approach against a starting pitcher, or you're really, really frustrated. There's not too many in-betweens. This was one where you're just really happy with how it's worked out. And the fact of the matter is they have 51 wins, the best record in baseball, and are 20 games over 500. So clearly they're doing something right with their approach, and they're successful in their approach offensively far more than they are not. This was also another game where you were in control, I would say, the entire ball game, but it was still pretty close when it got handed over to the bullpen, right? This was a 3-run game. It was 3-0 when the A's turned to their bullpen and took Springs out, and the Tigers yet again gave themselves a little bit of insurance and a little bit of cushion there, which is always a beautiful thing. Next thing you know, it's 8-0. And when the bullpen started, it was 3-0. So they keep applying pressure. They do not care what the score is. And it's not always successful, as we've become well aware, but it doesn't matter what the score is, what inning it is, whatever. They are going to continue to try and apply pressure at any point in a ball game. And that's, again, a beautiful thing and something that makes up really good baseball teams individually. Gleyber Torres with a home run, always beautiful to see. Somebody that has had just an unbelievable season. If there is anything he's been lacking, it's maybe consistent power, but I don't know, who really cares? Dare I say, he's been so valuable in his role in just getting on base that I don't need a ton of pop from Gleyber. And this home run puts him back at an 816 OPS. And his slug stays over 400. Beautiful. He's going to be the all-star game starting second baseman. If anybody has half a brain, that's going to be the decision there. And we kind of fully expect him to be that, which is super cool. Jahmai Jones with 2 RBIs in this ballgame, a big hit as well. It's with how Carpenter has hit lately, I think getting him back to being a pure platoon is probably good for him, just to get him seeing the ball well, get his confidence back up, and get him looking like he was for the Tigers. And I think that means that you are then using Jahmai Jones in a lot of that DH/corner outfield against left-handed pitching platoon situation, right? And he's been fantastic. He's been so good. I don't know how long this lasts. I don't know if it maintains the whole season, but like we said, kind of the same thing about Andy Ibanez, 2 seasons ago now. And he stuck around for a long while and honestly could even still come back at some point this year, just in being that guy that can hit left-handed pitching. So AJ has proven, and the players have proven, that if they can do that, he'll find a spot for you. So tip of the cap to Jahmai Jones, who has just made the most out of this situation, is being utilized really well by Hinch and the coaching staff, and they're getting the most out of him for sure. Carpenter with another hit. Speaking of him, good to see. Hopefully can help get him back on track. Spencer Torkelson. Beautiful day. We just talked about him on yesterday's show. He goes 2 for 4 with obviously the RBI being a solo home run. All of his damage off of left-handed pitching, which we also talked about a little bit yesterday. And honestly, he had a fly out in this ball game that was hit about 400 something feet. You know, Clark's back was against the center field wall. He absolutely smoked that ball. And I guess I haven't looked to see how many parks that's a home run in, but I can't imagine that it's not a handful. I would imagine that that's a home run in several parks at least. So, yeah, he was seeing the ball really well. We've talked about his success against lefties. He needs to improve against righties. That's something that we'll see going forward. He faced a lefty today. He faced multiple lefties on Thursday, and he did damage against them. Awesome to see. We just want to get him back going in general because obviously the numbers have fallen off a little bit. Actually, with this game, his OPS jumps back over 800. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Zack McKinstry. My goodness, what an awesome story. 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. He is now hitting 277 with a 793 OPS on the year. I think that's another triple too. He's just kind of been like the triples machine so far this season. On top of that, playing really good defense at third base. The craziest thing about this is, you know, Zack McKinstry was a utility platoon. Okay. He never got at bats against lefties. And he was really only getting at-bats, period, if somebody needed the day off against a righty, okay? This year, he's now starting pretty much every game, and on top of that is producing. But on top of that, he's producing against lefties. He's hitting left-handed pitching, like well, and has all year. It's wild to me. His turnaround needs to be studied. He's going to be a board. I don't think he'll make the All-Star game. Phase 1 ends on Thursday. I'm recording this before, so I don't know who's going to make the cut and whatever for All-Star voting. But like the fact that McKinstry is even in consideration is nothing short of mind-boggling to somebody who was a Tigers fan really ever going into this year. Awesome story. Another fire-up Chip as well. Him and Enns, both CMU alum. And then Parker Meadows with a couple of hits. Good to see there. Obviously, it's really important for the team for him to get going. Just, you know, slashing the ball, slapping the ball onto the ground a little bit. But with his speed, that's a worthwhile approach to kind of get going before you start driving the ball again. And he had a home run just, you know, over last weekend. So I think we're starting to turn a corner, and he's starting to get back into form as well, which is awesome because he is unbelievably valuable when he's right. The bullpen. We mentioned Enns throwing 5 innings of shutout ball. The bullpen throws 4 innings of shutout ball after that as well. Hannafy, Holton, Lee, and then obviously Will Vest. Good to see Will Vest get out there. I think that was just he hasn't pitched in a really long time, but we want to make sure he gets his innings. So he goes out there and looks really sharp. Yeah, everyone really looked sharp. I thought the bullpen as a whole had 2 hits, no walks, no runs in 4 innings. That's going to win you a lot of ball games. Chase Lee, I continue to be a huge fan of. Tyler Holton with now a couple of clean sheets in a row. We'll see if that can maybe keep trending in the right direction. And then Hannafy continues to kind of look how Hannafy has looked all year as well. What went wrong? Well, it's not a whole lot. Yeah, we'll talk about maybe the super nitpicky things that may have gone wrong, kind of, right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. What went wrong in this ball game? Not much. I think if we're being super overly critical or analytical in an 8-0 win to get a series victory, which I don't want to be, but the bullpen only had 1 strikeout, and it was Will Vest in the 9th inning. Like, we know that he can strike people out. So like that, you know, everlasting complaint about like this bullpen just needs to get more guys that can get swing and miss, more guys that can get strikeouts, I think is still fair to bring up. They shutout ball, no complaints when you throw shutout ball. That's the name of the game at the end of the day. But one strikeout in 4 innings is something that in those close, high-pressure games is probably going to be an Achilles heel. And we've already seen has been an Achilles heel at time for Detroit this year. Gleyber Torres with a couple of defensive, not miscues, just like, I don't know. There was that one series, and I forget what inning it was at this point, but in the middle of the ball game where he could have turned or been part of turning 2 separate double plays in the inning and was not able to get either, just kind of lost one on the transition. The really bad tag on Wednesday, just kind of frustrating, but like he homered and he gets on base like 7 times a game. I don't really care. Like good for you. Again, this is being super overly critical and analytical just for the sake of having anything in this segment. Riley Green, I guess, goes 0 for. I'm pretty sure he was the only one on the team that didn't get on base today, which is kind of funny given how he's been one of the best hitters in all of baseball in the month of June. But like, again, I don't really care. We expect him to just get on base every single game the rest of the season. He would break the all-time record if he did that. Like everybody goes 0 for. It's going to happen. I don't know what to tell you. And they were still able to put up 8 without him. I think that's actually more of an encouraging thing than maybe a discouraging thing. So as you can tell, I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. Not too much went wrong in this one, so we'll move on. Stuff. Really liked the pitching all series, as I already said at the top of the show, so we don't have to really rehash that whole conversation, but just really nice to see a good offense come into town and for the Tigers pitching staff to kind of do what we have come to expect them to do, which is limit the amount of opportunities. All of the runs the A's scored this series were also on the home run, so that they weren't allowing a ton of base runners or anything like that, just a couple of long balls. That's how their offense and that's how their lineup is built, and that's how they were able to take advantage and steal a win here. But I thought that, tip of the cap to the pitching. I thought it was really good, and the bullpen especially. The bullpen didn't give up a single run the entire series. I'm just now realizing. School gave up all 4, and Flaherty gave up all 3. And then there was a shutout today. So the bullpen literally has not given up a run since the weekend series. That's a great thing. Winfield Perez getting starts against right-handed pitching and left-handed pitching. Beautiful. I completely agree with it. We've been talking about that on this show for the last few weeks, and he's going to be super valuable if he can do that in an AJ Hinch system, as we've talked about a lot. So, another hit in this one. He's hitting over 300 with an OPS just under 1,000. He's been fantastic. And even like he got an out. I think it was his first at bat. He struck out in this one, and even that was like a long at bat that he kept fouling off pitches, and eventually, just kind of wore him down type of thing. Really good approach. He's such a professional hitter. Awesome. Gio Urshela, former Tiger in not Oakland, in athletics. So that, old friend alert, played for the Tigers for a couple of months, had like a red hot start to last year, and then just, was gone by like June. But tip of the cap, man. He keeps getting work. He keeps finding jobs and making rosters. And that's about all you can ask for at that point in your career. So shout out Gio Urshela. One thing I noticed was Reese Olson was in the dugout for the Tigers. Not sure if that's a direct correlation, but I would imagine if they wanted him in Toledo long-term, he would, be in Toledo. Like Matt Bierling is still like in Toledo. He wasn't in the dugout just randomly. So now pitching's a little different because, you don't play every day or whatever, but still, I would take that as maybe a good sign. Not a for sure thing, but maybe a good sign that he will pitch again this weekend or coming out of the weekend series. Matt Gage DFA'd to make room for Dietrich Enns. We talked about that earlier. Also, Jake Rogers getting the nod behind the plate on Thursday. You're going to see that a lot when you have a night day in back-to-back days. Dingler Played game 1, played game 2, night game in game 2. Also, the rain delay made game 1 later. And then you turn around, you have a 1 o'clock start on game 3 with no off days mixed in there. That's kind of like the prime position for your 1B or your backup catcher, whatever you want to call them, to get an opportunity. So made total sense for him to get the start, but deserves a ton of credit because, again, for as much as we've been praising Enns, and he obviously deserves all the praise in the world, Jake Rogers called a really, really great game in this one as well, and handed it off to the bullpen in a really nice position too. So shout out to Jakey, gets on base as well, which is nice. Okay, Minnesota Twins this weekend, really big series. And I say big, if you get swept, you're still going to be in first place in the AL Central. Like I'm not trying to make it sound like the season's on the line here. The Twins are 38-42 at the time of this recording. On Thursday, their game has been delayed so far. So if they end up playing it, maybe that improves to 39-42. But there are a couple games, few, as my dad used to say, games under 500, and they are 2-8 in their last 10 games. I've talked about this before. I'm done, honestly, trying to predict or project what the Twins will be on any given series or season even. They are the most inconsistent. If I was a fan of that team, I would be losing it all the time. They are the most inconsistent team I've maybe ever seen in my life. They win 15 in a row, then they lose 10 in a row. Then, half their team gets hurt pretty much, like clockwork every single season. And it's about who can stay healthy, and nobody can ever stay healthy. But then when they are healthy, they're good. I don't even know anymore. I don't know. They're a division rival. I have sympathy, empathy, whatever the right one is. I can never remember, for that fan base. I actually feel bad for them because that just has to be the biggest roller coaster of emotions every single summer. I have no clue. We might face one of the more prolific offenses in baseball, or we might face a team that's won 2 games in their last 2 weeks. Your guess is as good as mine. The reason why I'm joking aside and not being super overly dramatic aside, I'm confident going into this weekend, aside from the fact that the Tigers have a much better record and are a much better team, is the pitching matchups. In game 1, you have TBD for Minnesota against Sawyer Gipson-Long. We'll see if Sawyer Gipson-Long gets to start outright or as an opener. Game 2 is Bailey Ober against Casey Mize. Game 3, Sunday, is Chris Paddock against Tarek Skubal. Tarek Skubal against a division rival on Sunday Night Baseball is the coolest thing ever. This Sunday's game, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball with Tarek Skubal on the bump. That is super cool. Hopefully the weather cannot delay a Skubal start for the 4th time in a row. Game 2, Bailey Ober, really Ober and Paddock both, have had solid careers, have been really good at times in their career, especially Bailey Ober. Both of them have ERAs over 4. I think Ober's is even pushing 5 this season. Just haven't had it as much this year. Mize, nice recovery outing last time out, has had a solid year, but an inconsistent one as well. I mean, we'll see if they go bullpen day or if they call somebody up or what they do for game 1. But there's a chance you have the pitching advantage in all 3 games. And with the way that the Tigers have been playing at home and the way that the offense has been going this season, and especially, in this A's series, again, 1 game they were terrible, but they still scored 17 runs in the other 2. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't expect and kind of demand 2 of 3. And, if you win the first 2, then you got Skubal going in game 3, and that's a pretty nice feeling as well. The Twins are only 3.5 out of the wild card at the time of this recording, and it's June, right? There's plenty of time. They're not just playing for nothing. The season's over. Byron Buxton's had a good year when he's been on the field. They still have talent. I promise you. They're just weird. We'll see how it plays out. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back on Monday recapping this series against the Twins. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.